You keep saying you want peace, a quiet mind, a slow life. No more drama, no more stress. You want simplicity, clarity, stillness, and maybe you even believe that. But every time life actually starts to slow down, you get restless, you reach for your phone, you create a problem, you pick a fight, you sabotage something just a little, enough to feel that spark, that rush, that urgency. You say you want peace, but part of you doesn't know who you are. Without the noise, here's the uncomfortable truth. Peace feels unsafe when you're addicted to chaos. And I'm not saying that with judgment. I'm saying it because I've lived it, because I still catch myself doing it. You ask for a break, but when you finally get one, your mind fills the silence with static. You chase stability, but sabotage it as soon as it arrives. Not because you're broken, not because you're stupid, but because you've been trained, probably since childhood, to find comfort in the storm. Chaos became normal. Conflict felt like connection. Stress felt like purpose. Noise felt like love. So peace feels like emptiness. You're not crazy for this. You're not weak. You're just carrying a nervous system that doesn't know how to relax because it never learned what safety feels like. Without tension. If all you've ever known is unpredictability, your body will confuse calm with danger. It'll whisper, "This is unfamiliar. This is boring. This isn't safe." And so you stir things up, without meaning to. Without wanting to, because a part of you only feels alive when things are falling apart. Let's get really honest. You're not addicted to pain. You're addicted to control, and in chaos, you know the rules. You know how to survive. You know what to expect, even if it hurts. But peace is a blank page. And blank pages are terrifying when you've spent your whole life reacting instead of choosing. When the dust settles, and the room is finally quiet, and no one is asking anything from you, that's when the real fear shows up. Because now, you have to feel, you have to sit with yourself. You have to listen to the parts of you that were drowned out by the noise. And maybe you've never done that before. Not really. So here's the question I had to ask myself, and maybe you do too. Do I actually want peace? Or do I just want relief? Because they're not the same. Relief is temporary. It's distraction, escape, numbness. Peace is different. Peace is presence. Is silence, stillness, being with what is. And that takes work, not outward effort, but inward honesty. Let me tell you something real. The first time I felt genuine peace, I panicked. My brain didn't know what to do without a problem to solve. I was so used to living in a state of survival that rest felt like danger. Stillness felt like suffocation, and I almost ruined it. I almost lit a fire just to feel normal again. But that moment taught me something. Chaos isn't always happening to us. Sometimes we're choosing it because it's all we've known. This isn't about blame. It's about awareness. You don't fix chaos by pretending to love stillness. You fix it by learning to tolerate peace in small doses. By letting your nervous system adapt to quiet like it adapted to noise. Because peace won't shout for your attention. It waits. Softly. Patiently. And the longer you avoid it, the more chaotic life has to become just to get your attention. In the next part, we'll talk about how this addiction to chaos forms early and how to start breaking the pattern gently without violence to yourself. But for now, just notice how often you say you want peace, but chase chaos the moment peace arrives. It doesn't mean you're lying. It means you're not free yet. But now, you know where to begin. Peace isn't just quiet. It's confrontational. Because when everything finally calms down, you can hear what's actually inside you. Not what the world told you to be, not what your schedule demands, but that quiet, aching voice underneath it all. And for some of us, that silence is unbearable. Because we've spent our whole lives trying not to feel it. Think about it. How many times have you felt overwhelmed, but secretly relieved? Because in the chaos, you don't have to deal with the truth. You can blame the mess. You can stay distracted. You can postpone the real work, the kind that happens in stillness. There's always another fire to put out. Another crisis to handle. Another deadline, another argument, another emergency. And that becomes the rhythm of your life. You move from survival to survival until one day, you forget what it felt like to actually live. You say you want peace, but peace would mean stopping. Stopping means listening. Listening means feeling, and feeling brings the grief you buried under years of movement. The grief of all the parts of you ignored. The dreams you laughed off. The words you never said. The moments you wanted to scream and didn't. The love you needed, but pretended you didn't. All of that lives in the silence, and the silence waits. Here's what no one tells you. If you were raised in emotional chaos, constant yelling, walking on eggshells, unpredictability, distance, your nervous system became wired for instability. Calm wasn't calm. It was a quiet before the next explosion. So now, as an adult, peace doesn't feel peaceful. It feels suspicious. Wrong. To still. You brace for impact even when nothing's coming. And if nothing happens for too long, you might create something just to feel prepared again. You're not doing this consciously, but your body is trying to protect you from the quiet that once meant danger. That's why you choose the wrong people, why you stir up tension when things are fine, why you procrastinate, self-sabotage, why you can't sit still. It's not because you're broken. It's because your baseline is chaos, and anything outside of that feels alien. But here's the most heartbreaking part. You're not addicted to chaos. You're addicted to familiarity. And if pain is what's familiar, then pain is what you'll keep reaching for, even when peace is right in front of you. So how do you break it? Not with force, not with shame. But with slow, honest presence. Start by noticing, what do I feel when things get calm? What part of me gets anxious when I rest? What happens when I stop running? Let the answers come, even if they hurt, especially if they hurt. Because the pain isn't your enemy. It's your guide. It's not trying to destroy you. It's trying to show you where you left yourself behind. Here's something I want you to hear and really believe. You were never meant to live in survival mode. You were never meant to feel at home in crisis. That was learned, and anything learned can be unlearned. But it takes time. It takes gentleness. It takes allowing yourself to feel safe in spaces that don't demand you bleed to be worthy. It takes trusting peace, even when your body doesn't recognize it yet. You don't have to become someone else. You just have to remember who you were before the noise taught you to fear your own quiet. The you who didn't need chaos to feel alive. The you who felt joy without guilt. The you who didn't have to perform to belong. That version of you isn't gone. They're waiting, under the noise, under the armor, under the habits you no longer need. They've been waiting for you to stop long enough to come home. In the next part, we'll talk about how to gently retrain your mind and body so that peace stops feeling like punishment and starts to feel like home again. But for now, sit with this question. When did I first learn that calm wasn't safe? That answer might break your heart, but it will also start to set you free. And freedom is what you were always meant for. Learning to live in peace after a lifetime of causes, like trying to relax in a room where the fire alarm is still going off. Your mind tells you it's safe, but your body hasn't caught up, because healing isn't an idea. It's not just a mindset. It's a nervous system process. And that's where most people get stuck. They try to think their way into peace. To logic themselves out of anxiety, to use affirmations and to-do lists and clean aesthetics to outrun something that lives in their bones. But you can't outthink what your body learned in the dark. You have to teach it something new. Let's be real. You've lived most of your life on high alert. Your shoulders are tense even when you're doing nothing. Your jaw is tight. You clench your fists in your sleep. You rehearse conversations in your head 10 times before they happen. You scan for danger, even when you're surrounded by love. And it's not your fault. It's just what happens when your baseline becomes hypervigilance. But here's the good news. That baseline is not fixed. It's just familiar. And what's familiar can be changed. It starts small, not with some grand decision to be calm forever, but with a quiet choice to feel safe for one breath, then 5 minutes at a time. Here's what that might look like. Sitting in silence without reaching for your phone. Taking a walk with no destination. Breathing, slow and deep, even when your mind races. Letting yourself rest, even if the house is messy. Saying no and not explaining why. Being in the presence of someone safe and not performing. These are not glamorous things, but they rewire your nervous system. They teach your body something it never got to learn. You don't have to earn peace. You're allowed to feel calm and still be loved, still be worthy, still be safe. This will feel strange at first, because your body has associated stillness with danger, with shame, with waiting for the other shoe to drop. So when nothing happens, when the sky doesn't fall, when no one yells, your system might interpret that as wrong. It will scream, do something, fix it, stir it up. Not because it wants chaos, but because it's still adjusting to peace. This is not failure. This is recalibration. You are learning to walk barefoot on a ground you were taught to fear. You are learning to stay present, even when the urge to self-destruct whispers like an old friend. There will be moments when the old you calls you back, the version of you who thrives in stress. Who knows how to break things before they leave you? Who flirts with burnout because it feels like achievement? Who keeps people at a distance just to feel in control? That version of you wasn't wrong. They were just surviving. But you don't have to survive anymore. You get to live now, slowly, tenderly, honestly, and that means forgiving yourself for how long you stayed in the storm because it was the only place that felt like home. You're not broken because peace feels foreign. You're not weak because you miss the adrenaline. You're not wrong because calm makes you uncomfortable. You're just healing, and healing takes practice. It's like learning a new language, the language of your own softness. And at first, it feels unnatural, but with time, it becomes fluent. And one day, you'll realize you no longer flinch when life gets quiet. You no longer reach for chaos when nothing's wrong. You no longer need to fight just to feel something, because feeling safe in your own skin has finally become familiar. In the last part, we'll talk about identity, how to rebuild a version of yourself that doesn't rely on chaos, and how to stay rooted even when the world tries to pull you back. But for now, ask yourself gently, what would it feel like to not be afraid of the quiet anymore? The answer may not come in words. It may come in breath. In a tear. In the way your body relaxes. Just a little. That's peace. And it's already here, learning how to belong. You've spent years surviving, reading the room, anticipating moods. Managing energy that didn't belong to you, filling in the silence so no one felt uncomfortable. But here's the real question. Who are you when everything stops needing to be managed? Not who you are at work. Not who you are in a relationship. Not who you are when someone needs you, but who you are when no one is watching, when there's nothing to fix, nothing to earn, no chaos to clean up. Who are you in stillness? If that question scares you, you're not alone, because when your identity has been built in reaction to life, peace can feel like disappearance. For some people, peace feels like death, not literally, but like ego death, because when you no longer have chaos to push against, you no longer have the identity that formed around it. The one who was always strong, always resilient, always the one who held everything together. That person had a purpose, survived the storm. But when the storm ends and it's just you, the quiet becomes a mirror, and maybe for the first time, you're not quite sure who's staring back. So let me ask you, if you've always been the fighter, what happens when there's no one to fight? If your worth has always come from fixing, what happens when there's nothing broken? If your comfort zone was crisis, what does it mean to live without tension? The truth is, you don't lose yourself in peace. You meet yourself there, not the self that was formed by survival. The self that's been buried underneath it. The one that wasn't allowed to come forward when everything felt unsafe. The one that never got to ask, what do I want now that I'm no longer running? Peace requires responsibility. That's why it scares people, because when you're no longer reacting, you have to start choosing. You can't blame the chaos anymore. You can't say I had no time. You can't escape into the next disaster. You have to look at your life and say, if this is mine, what will I do with it? And that kind of freedom, it's terrifying, but it's also sacred, because it means your life is finally your own. So, what now? You rebuild, not all at once, not perfectly, but honestly. You begin to create rituals that nourish you, not numb you. You surround yourself with people who don't require a performance. You pursue work that doesn't feed your chaos, but honors your rhythm. You build safety that isn't based on control. You choose love that doesn't need volatility to feel alive. You seek stillness that doesn't feel like silence, but like presence. You begin, breath by breath, to write a new story, not one that starts with trauma, but one that starts with awareness. And that story might sound like this. I used to think peace was boring. Now I know it was unfamiliar. I used to think stillness meant failure. Now I see it as arrival. I used to stir chaos just to feel alive. Now I sit in silence. It feels something better. Truth. This is how healing happens. Not with fireworks, but in the gentle refusal. Live in fear of yourself. Let this be your permission. You are allowed to feel safe. You are allowed to stop performing. You are allowed to live without drama. You are allowed to create a life that doesn't exhaust you. You don't need chaos to prove you're strong. You don't need suffering to feel worthy. You don't need to earn your peace. You only need to receive it. And yes, at first, it will feel unfamiliar, maybe even painful, but only because you're finally stepping into a life that's aligned with who you really are. Not the version of you built in response to chaos, but the version of you that's been waiting to be met. with calm dots so as this journey ends. Ask yourself, what would it mean to live a life that no longer needs fixing? That question isn't the end dot, it's the beginning. And when the world around you quiets, and there's nothing left to chase or avoid, listen, because in that stillness, you'll hear it, your real voice. And this time, you won't run from it, you'll stay.